heading down to Boulia and Bedourie. But before we go through there's a little town called Bedourie.
This region has been dubbed with many titles, including Corner Country, because of its position in the far west corner of Queensland. It also has been called the Channel Country because of the web of small creeks found in the area. They all feed into the desert-bound outback rivers. This town was once a very large cattle trucking depot. Huge herds were driven here from the Northern Territory and loaded aboard rail trains for the market in the east. The town declined when road trains took over hauling cattle.
The terrain I've been following through for the last 2 hours is very much like this. 144 kilometres down the track we come to Boulia. You see, cemeteries hold a lot to a town's history. We'll see what this one has to offer. Around this section, a lot of graves, young children, 6 days old, 11, 12. A lot of them don't really say the reason why they've died, but it's that's hard, but it's always particularly hard when the kids are involved. A lot of them are the early 30s. A lot of people out this way would have died. Enormous amount of what we call small diseases now. It was very hard in those days. Stations around here had very little medical help. Flying doctor was around, but it's just sad. I was in the pub last night and I was talking to a ringer for most of the night from a station about 80 kilometres north of here. It was a very interesting night talking to him about jobs out this way. Yeah. What time are you expecting?
Oh, about 4:30 this afternoon. The bus leaves, so you have to be in here before then.
Yeah.
One of the girls on it, from out the station.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
A while then.
Yep.
What are you going to do today then? Back in the pub.
Well, what else is there to do?
That's for sure. I wandered up and down the street twice and that's it.
Yeah, that's about it. That's about all there is to do.
Well, you start working tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Oh, well. very well planned, but
Even 20 hours on the bus is not a very good break,
right,
is it?
no. 20 hours each way on the bus is stupid.
Yesterday I came in here and it was pretty overcast.
Windy, cool day again today, but it's not going to be so overcast.
Just hope that it doesn't rain. I'll take your advice and just go as far as Bedourie. Yeah. Just go as far as there today.
It's a fair old stint anyway.
Yeah. Well, nearly 200 k's. No, it's a fair one. What the sign says, you've got to ensure you've got sufficient quantities of fuel, water. Make sure the car's doing okay. They ask you to drop into most of the stations to let them know of your progress. Also says you've got to stay with the car if there's any problems with mishaps and things like that. It's a sign with meaning. Type of scenery we're seeing here would be very typical of the type of terrain that Burke and Wills and the expedition were travelling when they were heading north to the Gulf of Carpentaria.
Because of recent rains, I was to experience patches of wet track on my trip down to Bedourie.
But looking forward to this one. One of the locals was telling me that the best thing to do at these places is water on the road, is stick to the middle of the road. My biggest problem is when there's water in the middle of the road, there's also ruts.
I had to walk many of these sections before I would commit my car to the flooded track. Little was I to know that conditions were going to get worse. Check out my next video to see what happened further down the track to Bedourie.